Five, four, three, two, one. Okay. All right. So we're back. Part two. I'm hoping everybody has the agenda. I'm going to post it again in the chat. Here. So in the chat, I put the agenda, the link to the agenda, and I wanted to have a little discussion about some extra projects and assignments and quizzes that you added in. So what were some things that were added in? And then in particular, before we end tonight, I definitely want us to spend some time talking about the Explore project and how the data collection is going and some things that we've seen happening with the Explore 1, the Explore 2, kind of giving some feedback. I know there's mixed feelings about the actual project itself, but I feel like we need to deal with and work with what we've been given. So if we can kind of keep it to feedback and help for when grading, that would be great. So.
Excuse me, Pauline.
Yep.
I saw the link for 2 seconds and now I can't find it.
At the bottom of your screen, so with the click chat. I just put it there again.
Okay, good. Got it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to reading them because I've skimmed a few that have been submitted to me already, and they're kind of, yeah.
Okay. I know we don't have much time for you guys to read over them, but I started to put some examples that we were finding into folders there. So there was the Explore 1, which is the optional project, and we decided for that one that we would pick the topic. Just so you can have, some scaffolding in there and some tips and feedbacks and get them ready for the official one. So we chose the phone monitoring software. So all of those, there's 3 in there. I have several classes who've given me their rubrics so far, who've completed Explore 1, the practice. And I took all 3 of the samples that I linked in there with their rubrics. I tried to make sure the names weren't in there. And all 3 of those are from one class. And I did that because I thought it was a good example of a good way of showing like a high, medium, and a low score. Mm-hmm. Remember, they're all the same topic in general, which is phone monitoring software, but I think there was a couple that chose like Net Nanny and the other one chose Mobile Spy. So even though they're using different resources, they're still all about the same topic. To kind of look at it like that. So there was a wide range. There was a wide range in the scores, and I just picked 3 along with the teacher, who I won't name who it was. And then for Explore 2, the students could pick any of their own. A lot of you did decide that you wanted one student or one topic to be done by per student. Basically, you said, well, if somebody's going to do GPS, you shouldn't do GPS too. It's already taken type thing. So one topic per person, like a new topic. So a lot of you did decide, and just seeing that, I don't think anybody really talked to one another about that. You guys, I think, just individually on your own decided that's what you were going to do, which is interesting to see. So there was a bunch of topics from each of the classes kind of that overlapped. And for tonight's purposes, I just picked the ones that were on cloud computing. So there's like a high, like a really high, like a medium, and sort of low, like, because there really wasn't much that I could choose from, because many of you haven't gotten the rubric yet, simply because you haven't done the project yet. And just remembering that this is the one that kept changing, and now this is the first year we actually get to do it. So this is the first year of data collection for it. So just for you who have done Explore 1, they've done Explore 2, any tips or pointers or feedback for the others? Again, trying to stay a little bit away from how we would change it if it were our own and we weren't doing it for the College Board. and staying focused on the fact that this is what we were given, this is what we had to do, how did it go, how did you make it work, type thing. So feel free to speak up, and the floor is yours, whoever wants it.
The link for the Explorer 1 is going to Explorer 2. They're both the same.
Did I mess it up? Uh-oh. Sorry, 1 second. They're both going to Explorer 1 or Explorer 2?
They're both going to Explorer 2.
2, okay. Can somebody check now?
Okay, that's good.
All right. So for those of you who haven't done it, I know you're probably kind of like just looking over what was there, what were some of the samples. But if you have done either of these before, it'd be helpful if you could give some feedback to the others.
Okay, I'll jump in then. My second papers were much better than the first. Before we started Explore 2, we went back and looked at some of the shortcomings from Explore 1. So I think that helped a lot. I basically told them, I showed them some good examples from Explore 1. And so I think that their papers overall for Explore 2 were much better than what I got for the first go round. I think the best thing that I did as far as after the paper part, we didn't spend a lot of time on it, but I probably spent maybe 1 week of class time on it, and I think that was enough. So
you can silently.
The best thing that I did was I used something that I actually saw from another teacher, was a flash talk where the students divided into small groups and they shared in small groups. And that was great because they really got involved in talking about the projects, and they all did something different. So I think that they learned a lot from each other on their projects at the end, and probably from the whole project, that was part of it, is them sharing with each other. And then I just went around from group to group. So that I would definitely recommend. I think that made the whole paper worthwhile, and I think the kids got a lot more out of it because of that.
And that's you're saying flash talk for the final presentation. That's how they presented to the class, right?
Right. Instead of presenting to the whole class, they presented in groups of like 5.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to make a comment. When this becomes an AP course, that final project is an exam. They are not supposed to share it with each other. It's like you can do whatever you need for the Explore 1, but for Explore 2, which is an exam, which is part of their AP assessment, it's not supposed to be shared with anybody. The student writes it up. The Explore 1 is the training. Explore 2 is an exam. If they leave it blank, they get blank. It's almost like getting to the exam and writing nothing. That's quite possible. They are not supposed to share it. They're not supposed to discuss it and get input.
Yeah, that's how I treated it, but I'm not seeing any really type of improvement. I discussed what to look for and compared a few from the last, but still not really seeing much of an improvement on some of them.
Yeah. Chima, mine were not sharing to get input. They were sharing at the end after they were already submitted. They were just sharing what they learned with the other students after they were submitted, not during their process.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, I look at it as if you have done the first one and you have your result and you don't want to do the second one, then you leave it blank. You're allowed to leave an exam blank. But we encourage them to do their best. That's all we can do.
Yeah, it's going to take me, I'm going to have to back after this year going through it for the, I treated it like an exam this time. I don't know if I spent too much time going into the exam, looking at the old ones. Maybe I could have spent a little bit more time. But I don't know. I don't think I'm going to get much of anything that's of that great quality.
Is it because you didn't get involved or because the students are not self-motivated?
A combination. I have some that will probably do okay on it, and I have some good writers. I got some kids, again, it's not an AP class yet, so I have some kids who don't belong in it, who just write worth a look anyways. I got one paper submitted today that had each of the paragraphs with lowercase, so that goes to tell you. I don't know. I think they get bored with it. I don't think they want to program. They want to do things with data. They like I said, they write papers all the time.
Yeah, they don't like the project. I agree.
It kind of ticks them off that they got to stop and write a paper. They're having fun programming. They're having fun doing this. They're having fun learning about computers. They're having fun learning about this. And all of a sudden, they got to stop and write this paper.
Do you know that that Explore task does not have to be a paper? It doesn't have to be presented as a paper.
Yeah, I understand that.
How else would it be presented? As a video?
Any way they want. That's where the creativity comes in. They are supposed to look at whatever it is. If they want to send it in as a musical composition, whatever they want to do. And that's the problem I've had with it. It's like my students all tend to believe it needs to be a PowerPoint. It needs to be this. It needs to be this. But it's like we are not getting out of the box.
Yeah, but if it's an exam type situation where they're doing it in class, doing it something out of the box, like making videos and stuff, is not possible. So you have to do, because it would just be too chaotic to make a video with everybody doing videos at the same time or doing something like that if you're treating it like an exam in class. You know what I'm saying? So you're limited with what you can do.
The talking about it as an exam is talking about it being that student's work. That doesn't mean he can't use resources. Like if it's a place that has a music booth or something that the kid can use, they can work on it on their own. But it has to be something, the only role the teacher plays is this something this child can produce? Is it their work? That's all. If you think it's a child that can do that, then that's fine. You just say it's the child's work. But I haven't had any student do anything outside PowerPoint and writing.
Right.
And that's my worry.
I think it's challenging because we haven't seen any examples outside of writing. So it's kind of hard to get the students. This is so new. They've never done anything like this in any course to have an exam question or a project that I think there's still just not enough. There's not a box around it. So it's too wide open. And I think it just makes it very difficult. Nobody really knows what the boundaries are.
I agree.
Yeah.
And the prompts in and of themselves are kind of short in and of themselves too for some of them.
Yeah.
I think they're limited. You got 100 words to answer a question, and there could be a lot to your innovation, and you got to put it in 100 words, so you're going to leave stuff out. You can't put stuff in. So you have all these 100 words max. So how do you do something like a video? Are they actually going to count the amount of words that the person says in the video? The answer, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of, so that's why kids are looking at it as a paper instead of making a video about it or doing something like that, because
Such high constraints.
Words max.
I think samples will come out very soon.
I think from listening to you guys, it actually made me think of like the last time I saw like a college poster, or when I had to do a project at Trinity and we had to do a poster and they told us, every time that we did it, there was like a certain type of format that we had to follow, and the posters that we did were, of course, like really large posters. So you could have like, here's a paragraph with a picture, here's a paragraph with a picture. So I'm like, could somebody do something like that if it's geared towards more college level? Could it be more of a college level poster where they have to have shorter words, shorter responses to keep like the person who's reading it, like their attention, because we don't want to have a big long paper on a poster, but they could still have visuals together and have words and kind of organize it in a way, like even the prompts, if you look at the prompts are very organized as far as saying what they're looking for. Like there's the information section, the effects section, right? So the description, and it makes me think of a poster.
How would you submit that, though?
For Trinity, when we got the poster templates, they were always in PowerPoint. So they send you the template in PowerPoint, you edit the template, and then you print it out on this big, huge paper, and you can like put your own, you can decide on what color background you want and how you want to set it up, but it was always like a similar template that they sent us.
Get us that template.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Then in something different.
Does that actually makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a paradigm. The thing is, too, that it's a lot to throw at a kid and then expect them to come up with a whole new paradigm of how to present it. We're asking them to take a lot of risks in this class beyond what they're used to taking.
Yeah.
An awful lot of risks. And there's a limit to how far they'll go. We have some kids that will go all the way. And that's not a problem. And they'll do that whether you ask them to or not. But the bulk of the kids, it's so hard to get them to stretch beyond the paradigms they already know. My biggest problem with my kids is risk aversion.
All right, I gotta go. I gotta put the kids to bed. So everybody have a good night.
Bye, Jim.
Bye, Jim.
Good night.
Good night, Emma.
Nice. Good night to Jim.
Oh.
I'm still here.
Okay. Okay, so we technically have a couple of minutes. Did Taylor come back? Taylor didn't come back, right?
No.
Okay. So I'm glad to see that we're starting to talk a little bit about the Explore project. We're seeing the challenges that we're facing as far as it being the first time through. But I also wanted to take a couple minutes and say, was there anybody who was coming up with new assignments? I know that you said yes, but you're free to talk about it now. Hopefully, you take a couple minutes and wrap up. But was there anything that you were adding to the course in between the lessons, or in addition? How were you, if at all, were you editing and altering the lessons to fit your classroom? So, were there quizzes? Were there extra assignments? So, just a couple minutes and to leave the floor open for anybody who might have added or altered.
Put your hand down.
I've got one.
Okay.
I have a problem because I have non-leveled and college prep both in the same classroom.
Mm-hmm.
And when I go to read the chapters in Blown to Bits, I can't say all the kids read them simultaneously because some kids are just not at that reading level.
Mm-hmm.
So I break the chapters down into 4 parts, and I've written questions for each of the 4 sections. And I have them meet as a group and break down the questions and answer them together. And my kids that are lower level readers question the kids that are higher level readers and prompt them to explain themselves better. And that's their role. And my kids that are higher level readers are the ones that are supposed to be pulling out the material. So it's kind of a cooperative thing. And we break it down into roles in the teams. And it's made the kids come back. Each team comes up and presents their answers to me, and I basically look at it and say, where's the pictures? You didn't address this. Yeah, you defined the question, but not in the context of the chapter. And I push back, and by the time I get the answers, they're really good answers. So I was another person that took 2 days, Mike, for the Blown to Bits 3, because I break it down this way, and all the kids come out with really super answers that have visual displays and everything, and I just get them to jump to a higher level of question answering than they do. And I find it's kind of a prompt for getting them into things like the innovation project to challenge them to come up with not just a defined sentence that I found in a book, but a higher level of answer that really incorporates material from the chapter. And I think you have to look at places along the way in the course to prompt them to go to a higher level of answering stuff, and not just throw the innovation at them and say, you're all of a sudden going to be working at a really high level, because they're not, unless you kind of segue it. So that was my innovation. I can give you the team breakdowns for what the readings are and the questions for chapter 1 and chapter 2 that I did for prompting questions. And then I just have the teams really quickly present it at me, and anything that sucks, I just say, that sucks, go do better.
Betsy, do they present to you or present to the class?
No, they presented to me, and then after I said, okay, it's vaguely acceptable, then they presented to the class.
Okay.
And then after they got to the class as a whole with each section, then they went back to answer the Blown to Bits questions that you guys had.
Yeah, that's almost how I do it too. My class, I have 12 students in the class, so they're in pairs, two. So what I do is I divide the chapter into 6 parts. Give it to the two. After the 2, they combine with another group, and then they go into groups of 3. Then from groups of 3, they go into groups of 6. So from there, they just, by the time they go through those groups, they would have answered all the questions. Then they present.
My coolest thing is my special need kids are my most useful kids in those teams, because they keep saying, I don't understand. What does this mean with the chapter? And it's like they keep giving that line out. It's really great. So my kids are like, they have to keep breaking it down. And the special need kids are like, they're there totally doing what I want the rest of the kids to be doing. They're like my little squad of commandos going through and going, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So my whole class is benefiting from them being there.
Yeah, I just believe if you do it that way, everybody learns. They may not be able to write it down, but they learn a lot.
By the time they're done, they can all write it down because it's broken down. And what I do is I post the answers to the individual sections, and they attach that to their wiki page along with the rest of the questions. So it's also a good breakdown study guide for when they go and do their final.
Betsy, would you be willing to share those questions that you have for the chapters?
Absolutely. For chapter 1 and 2, I will send them to Mobile CSP tomorrow because I don't have them here. They're at school.
Okay.
But absolutely.
Thank you, Betsy.
It's just worked really well, and I think that because otherwise you get back really sucky answers that don't really, they're like off the cuff, I didn't really think about it. And I hate getting that, and I hate settling for that.
Okay.
I've added a couple of things in between, aside from like eliciting better responses during the discussion, because I go through and I say that, you know, we're going to have our discussion. You should have like bare bones notes written to answer the questions. And then based on the discussion, you need to go through and audit your questions and see where did you hit, where did you miss. So that's one of the things that they do as they wrap up their activity. They compare what they came up with on their own, which a lot of times they just like skim through the reading as quickly as possible. And as we go through it as a group, I have the PDF up on the screen with my highlights and my notes on the document. Did anybody else like have something different? And a lot of times some of the kids key in on different things than what I had. Aside from doing the discussions that way, Pauline, I already sent you the Unit 2 and Unit 3 tests that I made to individually cover the units. I didn't do one for 4 because they had the midterm to cover.
Yeah.
And then I didn't do one for 5 because I treated the blown to bits from Unit 5 as our midterm. So they had to have a larger group presence in that and discussing it. But in terms of assignments that I added in just before the winter break in December and January, I had them go back and examine things how like Angry Birds puts out an Angry Birds Seasons where you have the holiday mix, you have Valentine's Day mix, you have the whatever. And so I said you have to take an app and winterize it and talk about the changes that you made to give it that winter theme as it went through. The other thing that I added in is I added in a unit about the Monty Hall problem, which is the Let's Make a Deal. He was the game show host, and it's, door number 1, door number 2, door number 3. One of the doors they don't pick, there's 2 goats and a car, and you open up the other door that's a goat that they didn't pick, and then you ask them if they want to switch. And so they had to make an app that trended that, very similar to the way the sorting experiments worked. And so it had to like simulate, all right, we're going to have them switch every time, and in 100 times we'll see how many times the person guesses right. So they had to come up with variables to randomly hide the car, to randomly pick a number, and then every time switch. And then they ran it again where every time they did not switch, and they saw that it was pretty much an even split. 67% of the time when they switched, they won the prize, and then like 35% of the time when they didn't switch, they won the prize. So that was pretty cool in the way that it fit in. And then a couple of the students went pretty far, and they made it like a graphic canvas app. So you would have to like pick the door and touch it on the screen, and then like the door would animate and open, and like it would have like a question mark coming out, like, are you sure you want to do this? And then it would, they switched to another door, it would either open up, the car would drive by, or like a goat would come out. And that's all I've added so far.
That's very good. That sounds very, very good.
Yeah.
Like it.
Very nice.
I think I wrote up questions for that, and I can share them and send them. I didn't write a like guided tutorial like we've been having, because we sort of wrote the app together as a class, and then once everybody had a basic shell of how the app was working, I sent it out. But I could do that just when I have more time, which probably won't be until break or summer.
Yeah, that'd be great though, even for next year, Michael, if you'd be willing to share, that'd be great.
Oh, absolutely. I'll email both those documents now. Or actually, do I have edit permissions on the thing? Can I put something in?
To the Hangout?
To the Hangout thing, like I can just post the document and part of the discussion, or?
In the agenda. Let me change it for you.
Because I'll make those documents open to everybody, and then I'll just put the links to them in there.
Okay. Uh-oh, my phone. You should be able to edit it now.
Cool.
While we wait, Aaron, what are you doing on April 25th?
I don't know.
Saturday.
Aaron, never answer like that.
Never answer like that? How should I answer? I'm busy.
But like I'm busy, yeah. I'll have to check my calendar.
I have a program at my school on April 25th. If you're free, can you attend? I'll send you an email. Betsy, what are you doing?
Yeah, send me an email. Just keep me posted. Just keep doing that.
Yeah. Betsy, what are you doing? Betsy, you're muted.
I'm double booked for Quinnipiac and Nationals.
Oh, are you going to Quinnipiac?
I'm not positive because my students are not sure yet.
Please
and it
go.
depends what my robotics team does.
Please go.
I'm going to try, but this is something my kids have to drive themselves down. So I have to get kids to go. But I did get one kid to apply to Google for this summer.
That's good.
And anybody that has summer activities, the ID camp is good. I sent that one out, and I'm trying to prompt a little bit more for it. And because I always get parents looking for summer camps. And anything that you guys have, just send around.
Pauline, what of your Hartford, what is it called? The summer program.
The mobile apps for Hartford?
Yes.
So the application is up on the website. You can Google mobile apps for Hartford.
Has the deadline passed?
No, it hasn't, because we don't find out until May how much funding we're going to get from the city.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Yeah, so it's up there, it's available. Just Google mobile apps for Hartford, and we have a Google Sites page that I created.
Yeah, but the students have to be from Hartford this year is what I read.
This year, yep. They have to attend a school in Hartford or be a Hartford resident.
Yeah.
Have we gotten any funding from any other source yet?
No.
Are they still working on it?
Yes.
And you'll let us know as soon as that comes around, so yeah. Alan wanted to know, number one, t-shirt. Number two, any word on whether or not he's going to be able to work on that project?
The t-shirt is in my office. I need to schedule a time to come back out to you. It's hard because of the time that your class is.
Yeah.
Alan
Alan meets first period, though.
Okay. The app, I just haven't been able to sit down with Ralph. We've had different schedules and very busy schedules, and I have not had a chance to sit down with him and talk about the City Hall app yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I have not forgotten about Alan.
Well, I don't ever assume you've forgotten. I just sometimes assume you need to be prompted.
Thanks.
Because I know that you have like about 98 billion things on your plate and are perpetually on the road.
Indeed.
And that Ralph always puts everything else on your plate after he gets done with it. It's like, this is nice. Hold it for 5 weeks and then give it to Paula.
No comment.
Because I spoke the truth. Anyway.
So, I don't know if anybody else, we're about to run out of time. We are over time, actually, and we're about to run out of time with the Hangout.
Yep.
So if anybody has any final comments, feel free to share. Otherwise, we can keep the conversation going in an email. I do have one final request, which is we need some data from you guys. I'm going to be sending out a quick little survey, and it's going to ask you for every section of mobile CSP that you've taught in the two years to tell us how many students were in the course and in that section, and how many of those students had some form of disability. So the best way to do this would be, Melissa, you have 2 sections.
Right.
Section 1, X amount of students, X with some form of disability. And
So you're talking about IEP or 504?
Yeah, so Larry, our evaluation consultant, had like the specifics. They were just asking, I believe, just for any type of disability.
So do you want to know like autism, ADHD, that kind of thing? Or
just if you know that they're, we don't need names, we don't need specifics, just if you know that they were considered to have any form, any type of disability, to let us know so we could have that data.
you know what's a really interesting thing? Some of those kids that started out with disabilities in my class are now taking my Java class.
Nice.
And they're doing well.
Nice.
So, Melissa, if you do not hear from me in the next 2 days with those questions up with the mobile CSP, would you please send me a little, I hate you, send it now, please.
No.
Be gentle on the hate, because, I'm sensitive.
There's no haters here, Betsy.
But just remind me, because, life happens.
Okay.
It's, and by the way, I am still Queen of England. My mother's kind of Looney Tunes at home in hospice, so that's where I'm spending my weekends. And coming back from there to here is kind of a brain mush. So this is good because it reminds me I'm still in the world of the living and I'm not Queen of England here. Anyway.
All right. Any final questions? Otherwise, I'm going to stop the recording, and I think I can still leave the Hangout open. But
will I see you tomorrow?
Yes, of course.
Okay.